dive into the transformational landscape of organizational change with Dr. Madeleine F. Wallace. In this episode of the Latino Business Report, discover the power of the SEAM framework, achieving organizational transformation in 4 steps, as we explore the keys to successful change. In the new mainstream economy, Latinos are in the forefront of reshaping the American economic landscape. Join us as we navigate the dynamic backdrop of change, exploring how emerging industries empower Latinos to drive entrepreneurship, innovation, and communal prosperity. Don't miss this concise yet impactful conversation with Dr. Wallace. Tune in to unravel the intersection of the SEAM framework and the new mainstream economy and gain practical insights for navigating organizational transformation.
Welcome to the Latino Business Report. This podcast covers business, people, and issues of the day from a Latino perspective. The Latino Business Report is brought to you by TAMAC, the Texas Association of Mexican American Chambers of Commerce. TAMAC is the leading Hispanic business organization in Texas since 1975. Now for your host, J.R. Gonzalez.
And welcome to another episode. Today's episode, we're going to be talking a little bit about business and business development. And with us, we have an expert in the field, Dr. Madeleine Wallace. Dr. Wallace has her PhD in sociology and also focuses on demography and statistics. She is originally from Peru and is joining us here today. Madeleine, how are you today?
Great. Thank you very much for the invitation to be in your podcast.
No, thank you for accepting. We really appreciate it. I think you have a lot to offer. I've actually been reading your book online, and congratulations on that. And before we actually delve into it, can you kind of give us an idea about your new book and what it's about?
Oh, yes, I'm very excited. We just learned on Friday that my book is a bestseller in the following categories for Amazon: women in business, organizational change, organizational behavior, starting a business, business development, and entrepreneurship. The name of the book...
Congratulations. The bestseller in all those categories?
Yes, thank you.
I'm
very excited.
Okay, next time, if we ever meet in person, I'll let you buy lunch.
So the name of the book is The SEAM Framework, Achieving Organizational Transformation in 4 Steps. And the 4 steps are the S.
Okay, I'm sorry. SEAM, S-E-A-M?
Yes, that's it.
Okay, all right. So go ahead.
So the S is for a snapshot, the E is for envision, the A is for act, and the M is for measure.
Okay, and these are elements that you feel are necessary to be able to have a successful business or to scale up your business.
So these are 4 steps that will help you to navigate and transform your business, especially when it has to do with technology or any other type of transformation.
Okay. So, Madeleine, let me ask you this. You're from Peru originally. Now, you grew up there or you grew up here in the States?
I grew up in Peru. I came to pursue my education, so I did my undergraduate and then my master and my PhD. And I'm from a little town. It is called Mollendo. So, arriba los moyendinos. And it's a port. So, it was very relaxed growing up there. And, you know, the ocean, and you had the beaches. And it was a very festive environment. And then we moved to Arequipa. And Arequipa is a colonial city called the White City because we have what is called sillar. That is a volcanic rock, and many houses are built of that. So it's also a very beautiful city. But as I say, it's different than Mollendo because it's a colonial city. It's more conservative, it's in the mountains. So I grew up in those 2 environments.
Okay, so you left Peru and came to the U.S. Where'd you go to school at?
I went to University of Tennessee in Knoxville, Tennessee. And something interesting is that, why did I go there, right? Well, I was an exchange student in 83, 84, and I was in Dayton, Tennessee, a small town. So all my friends went to University of Tennessee, or the majority of them. So, you know, I wanted to go there too.
Okay. And then that's where you got your undergraduate degree?
No, I got my undergraduate degree at Lee College. It was called before Lee College. Now it's Lee University in Cleveland, Tennessee.
Okay, super. Your book, I find it interesting. And once again, congratulations on the bestseller list right now. But why did you write the book, Madeleine? Or, excuse me, why did you write the book, Dr. Wallace?
Well, the book is something very personal to me because my parents had a vocational school in Mollendo.
A vocational school?
Yes.
Okay.
So they train people for administrative systems, bookkeeping, typing, shorthand. That was their major business. And what happened is that my father and mother will go to Lima, the capital, and they will, study and try to be always with the latest technology, with the latest advances in that. And that's a long trip from Mollendo to Lima. Back then, it will be like 24 hours in a bus.
Wow. And
they did that. But guess what? They thought that by changing from typewriters to electric typewriters, that was going to solve, that was the advancement. That was the thing to do. But guess what? The computers,
right,
that killed the business of my parents. So they have to close the business and we have to move to Arequipa. And that whole experience, from being owners of a business, then they had to transition to work for somebody else. And also for us, because, I had two sisters. So the three of us were in Arequipa. It was a different culture, as I said earlier. And it's just, everything changed. So that resonated in my mind all these years. I've always been thinking about that. So I opened my business after working for the federal government and also for large companies. And, one of my clients are the small businesses. Mm-hmm. And also when a small business come to my firm, Winrose Vision, they always say, oh, I want to increase my sales. They want that. But, their frustration now with the new technologies, I can help it, but I think about my parents, that they also have all those questions, how incorporate technology, especially now that everything is changing. Because what happened with my parents is that even if they wanted to do something, guess what happened? They didn't have the capital, but also the government started offering free classes in computers. So you see, there were a lot of things going on.
It kind of, okay. Why pay to go to your parents' school, which is a business itself, is when the government's going to, okay, got it.
Yes, so the small businesses have a lot of issues, and I can identify with them and look at it from different angles based on my experience working for different settings.
Okay, so this was one of the things that motivated you to write the book. So with that said, what is the book about, or shall I say, what is the overall goal of the book? What will the reader gain once they finish reading your book?
Oh my God, they will be successful. They will successfully transform their business. Okay, so, I'm a researcher, and after talking to my clients and to friends and small business owners, and based on my experience, what I saw was that people need businesses or business owners, entrepreneurs, they need a structured approach for decision making. And what the framework does, it gives you the structure so that, for example, in each of the steps, like in the first one, you're going to assess your current situation. And then at the end of it, you're going to be ready to say, okay, now that I know what I have, what can I do next? And in the second step, you go ahead and say, you're going to envision based on what you find out in the first step. And then from once you envision the future, and then you go to the third step, that it is the act. And the act starts with a plan. It's very interesting because planning is, how will I say this? To me, the most important one thing is planning, because if you do not plan, how are you going to know where you started, or how you're going to measure the progress for the future? So, and it has to be written. So if you look into the famous people, the famous businesses, I would say the majority of them, I would say all of them, they did have to have a plan.
Okay.
And that is something that we tend to forget. But actually, the plan is what I call it an action plan, not a word plan. That means that an action plan, you really go into the specifics. Who is doing what, when it's going to be done. And it's also based on research. So you develop your different strategies based on research. And then finally, you need to have indicators for how you're going to accomplish your goals. You may say, hey, this looks like everybody's doing. No, really. You need to have a structure. And in the different steps, we show you how to do that. And we have a character that is based on real people, real business owner, that actually using her experience, what she goes through, the reader can identify and then go through the different steps.
Okay. So basically what I'm hearing you say is that to be successful in business, you need to have a process, a step-by-step process with measurables, with goals, with a plan, and writing it down, as opposed to a lot of people who just go, well, this looks like a good idea. I think we ought to do this. I mean, there's a lot to be said for the entrepreneurial spirit and gut feeling, but without a system I'm not saying with a system in place, that should probably increase your success ratio as opposed to just going by the seat of your pants.
That's right. And in the book, we have Mora. Mora is the main character. And Mora has a bakery. She makes bread. And it's artisanal bread. So she has no automated her processes. And then she has to make a decision and say, what I'm going to do, right? Because everything changes, shortage of people, high prices. What are you going to do? So basically, we walk her through the steps so that she can identify where to automate, where to introduce new technology so that she can address all her barriers and she can increase her productivity. But she does it based on the needs of her business. And I think that's the missing piece. We tend to go ahead and follow what everybody's doing, but we do not locate exactly how that fits into our own processes, into our own business. So right now, everybody's doing, generative AI. You want to buy all this technology, but have you thought about how it's going to specifically help you and in what part of your processes it's going to work and it's going to give you the best benefit, the best profit, it's going to increase the productivity, the efficiency. So I think that's what we're missing. And my book does that. My book shows you how to do it through a character called Mora.
Okay. So like everybody's doing podcasts right now, when I finish your book, my podcast ought to get better?
That's right. Hey, you know why? Yeah, because actually I use how to do a podcast and I follow the steps, all that. And it is on I believe it's on chapter 2, where it tells you how to do a podcast. But I use it to illustrate all the thought process that should be taking place before you just go ahead and say, hey, I'm going to do a podcast.
So you actually talk about a podcast in your book?
Yes.
Well, I'll be darned. Okay. I haven't got to that chapter yet. We'll definitely look at that. Let me ask you this, Madeleine. As there's a lot of business, a lot of Latino-owned business, well, just businesses in general that are upstart. And with technology advancing so quick, what kind of challenges do small businesses have in that transition or being able to embrace that technology for their benefit?
The way I see it is that is the lack of knowledge or limited knowledge of their current infrastructure in terms of, they need to find out first how to assess their current technological state. And that means that they really need to sit down and assess what they have and how is it working. And then once they have the information, they can go ahead and say, okay, let's see if I use this technology, how it's going to help me. So we tend to buy software, but guess what happened? Ask anybody and how are they using, or they're using all the features, all the functions. And most likely, most people do not. And it's the same with businesses, because it involves a lot of training of this stuff, but also it involves having commitment to use the different areas. And then what if that software may be good for a large business or for this type of business, but it's no use for what you are doing? So I think that people need to go ahead and start assessing what they currently have, and then identify if they are currently using what they offer, then to identify what the current technology doesn't have, and then start thinking, okay, if I incorporate new technology, besides my increase in sales, how is it going to help my processes? You see what I mean? We have to see the linkage between, sales, social media, my actual product. And maybe you do not need, like case of Mora. Mora wanted to have more clients. So she thought, hey, everybody is trying to be healthy. I'm just going to go ahead and start selling bread to the people. And actually, Mora, my character in my book, she sells bread to restaurants and to grocery stores. So why was she going to change completely just because she thinks that people are going, taking choices and eating healthier and change for consumers when her business is business to business? So she needs to go ahead and analyze what she has and then say how the technology is going to help her to be able to produce, the bread so that she can, increase and scale. So you see what I mean? I think that's one big issue.
And so, and your book kind of outlines these step-by-step processes that people can apply to their own business.
Yes, and the other one is the about money. Everybody says, well, I don't have the budget, right? I don't have the resources, the costs. So there is something to consider. And it's that if you really want to grow and you want to scale, you do have to invest. So there is something like, for example, in Peru, I go every year to visit my family. And what I notice is that there were hotels that there were 5 years ago, and I go to see them today. They look pretty 5 years ago, but today they don't. Why? There hasn't been an investment in the hotel. So that is the key of growing and scaling. You do have to go ahead and invest and see where should you invest to reach your goals. Now, it doesn't mean that everybody does that in Peru. I just give you an example about
right. So one of those hotels, brand new hotel, looks nice, but then 5 years later, if you haven't replaced the carpet, given it a new paint job, replaced some of the features, upgraded to Wi-Fi, I mean, okay, I get it. So it's that investment into your own business that's necessary for it to be successful and to maintain and to grow.
Yeah, to grow, yes. And also to be realistic whether or not you can scale or not. Because there are certain businesses that they may not be able to scale up. You may not be able to have it all over the United States, while others are easy. So I think the issue here is that you do have to have your procedures, your processes. They have to be very clear. Nowadays everybody talks about the cultural change. You change the culture. Well, I say first, what procedures, processes do you have currently for what your staff does? Because we cannot, if we want to change the culture first, you need to go ahead and see what you currently have and in terms of processes, procedures, because maybe the reason why people are not happy is because every day, they don't have that. Step one is to do this. Step two is to do three, or people just forgot. You see what I mean? So,
not only that, but they have to have not forgetting, but the discipline to apply those. I mean, I kind of look at your character Mora, and then the whole thing for a small business. I mean, you can get the software. You can buy whatever necessary, but unless you know how to use it and do it regularly, it's kind of like joining a gym. Just because I go join a gym doesn't mean I'm automatically going to get healthy and lose weight. I mean, you got to go to the gym. You got to work out. You got to find maybe a trainer and go through the process. So you're basically saying the same thing in business with the technological advances. And if you end up getting new programs, new software, learn how to use them and get some training on them and apply them and be consistent with that application for there to be a change.
That's right. And something that it is very important is that, again, They have to be written. If it's not written, it doesn't exist. I know restaurant owners that they don't have the recipes written down. If something happens to them, what's going to happen to the whole family? And the same is for any type of process. Now, the processes are not meant to be static. Actually, you put the process, then you have to check. You have to monitor. So that's another part that we forget. We forget to monitor. And the monitor means that you're going to go ahead and check if this is still working, if this actually is being efficient or being productive. And then it's when you start revising the procedures. But you do everything based on data. And I think that's another thing, data. Many people want to buy these sophisticated softwares to get feedback from the customers. That's wonderful. Mm-hmm. But you need to think about, okay, once you get the data, who is going to analyze it? How is it going to be analyzed? And remember, garbage in, garbage out. So again, you have to have an infrastructure. So you have zero infrastructure, then you cannot just go to the fancy stuff immediately. And also you need a lot of data to be able to, because that's what it is, generative artificial intelligence. So you have to have data to be able to do modeling. So if you are at the very beginning, you have to be realistic. And I think sometimes we forget about this. But again, I love the entrepreneurial spirit because, think about it. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the entrepreneurial spirit that you have and I have.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. No, it makes perfect sense. But as you're gathering that data, you got to be smart enough to know how to analyze it and how to apply it. Because, I've always looked at statistics and data as one of those things you can make them do or say almost anything you want to. So it's just being able to go through the layers and understanding how that data applies specifically to your business and what you need to do to make adjustments in your business. I would assume. I'm just talking here.
Well, I'm a statistician. I use a lot of statistics. So I think what happened is that nowadays it's very popular to use storytelling. And storytelling is wonderful. In my book, I use a story to illustrate the steps. What happened is that when you have 2 or 3 stories, those 3 stories, if you really want to base whatever you want to do based on 3 or 4 stories, well, you have to make sure that they represent your target audience. Mm-hmm. So I think data, if it is curated, good data can give you excellent results. So, and you have to combine the qualitative data with the quantitative data. You have to combine the stories with also other types of data. And then that gives you a strong justification for whatever you want to do. And I think for the statistics, I'm glad you brought it up because sometimes the data that are collected are so small that you cannot find what is called a statistical significance. Okay. So again, guess what happened? What question are you trying to answer? So to me, it all goes back to the question you're trying to answer. So we tend to ask the wrong questions. And when we ask the wrong questions, we collect the wrong data and we analyze the wrong data. So asking the right question, for example, people want to know this customer satisfaction. Everybody has something about customer satisfaction, right? Mm-hmm. But when somebody tells you, how do you rate the service? And it gives you a scale from 0 to 10. Okay, so you give that. And the point is that, first of all, you need to be specific. If you really want to improve something, you need to be specific about what part of the customer service and in what moment, in what part of your process. So the point is you have to ask for the right question. If you want to really improve your service, you need to see, okay, these are the areas that I need to go ahead and learn what is going on. Now, if you plan not to do anything about, you just want for PR, I will advise don't collect the data because data is important and I don't want people to forget about the importance of the data. So yeah, but we need to ask questions very specific in order for us to improve what we want to improve in terms of processes.
Well, wouldn't it be by the same token that if you're asking those specific questions and you get positive feedback, to take that into consideration and keep doing or just reinforce and keep doing the thing that makes the customer happy?
Because it all goes back how you phrase the question. Many of the questions are leading. So you have to do in a neutral that allows for negative and positive feedback. And then what we know about social media is that it tends to go to the extremes, a lot of negatives, a lot of positives. So you also need to take care, you need to think about that. And it is not representative of the population. So you see, so there are other issues. So that's why you have to say, why do I need this data for? And make it in a way that is not leading the respondent to answer in a favorable way or in a negative way.
Okay. Now, in your book, your bestseller, your Amazon bestseller, did we mention that? in your Amazon best-selling book, do you have questions that a business owner or somebody could ask themselves, or do you have a list of in the outline? How can somebody just extract useful information from your book immediately and put it into play?
Okay, so since we have 4 steps, the snapshot, the envision, the act, and the measure, we have questions to guide the reader how to answer. And also we have templates. So the reader can go ahead and download those templates, and they can apply what they read in the book, they can apply to their own business. So it's actually not only just a book, but it's also a workbook. And it's very, I will call it action oriented. Because I feel that many times we have these brilliant ideas, but we don't go into action. My book is a call to action. It's like, okay, this is the first step. Hey, these are the questions. And then you answer the questions. And then, hey, let's go to the second step. What did we learn from the first one? And then you have the template. You can download the template and start, I will call it, playing with it. So it's very interactive. And then it's realistic because it's based on real examples. So that's another component. It's not just theory. Many people write books, and I'm glad that people are writing books. But many times people write, like when I'm in academia, many times consultants are in academia, but they may not have the actual experience of running a business. Mm-hmm. Like in my case, yes, I have a business. I know the struggles, I know the issues. So I can incorporate both and say, this works. And it's very important to always check what is your source. It's so much going on. But the book also tells you, okay, the book is going to help you when you need to get an expert to help you to continue. You see, nowadays you can hire anybody and tell you, I can help you in your transformation. But what if the book also helps you to say, hey, you will need this consultant because of this very specific expertise. So you see what I mean? You're saving money. Definitely, you're saving money. Because now you're not going to just pay, I don't know, whatever amount of money for one person. But now you're going to know, hey, I can spend my money on this, and this. So the book helps you to identify, the best consultant or if you want to hire a consultant for a specific expertise.
In your business, in Winrose Vision, I mean, you are an expert. You have some great clients. Can you tell me a little bit about your client list and what you do for them?
Okay, so my clients are the federal government. I do a lot of work for the National Science Foundation, the National Institute of Health, HRSA. And then I also have clients that are business owners, small business and large business, academia or universities, and nonprofits. So my framework, the SEAM framework, is based on my experience working with a variety of clients from different sectors. This is why the framework is applicable to any type of business. If you have a bakery or if you're an accountant and you offer professional services, because those steps are based on best practices and experience. So what I do with my clients, I help them to develop the strategy, but the way I do it is by assessing the effectiveness of what they currently do. So I give them the tools so that they can also are able to, that after we finish with me, they can do it themselves. So that makes it very unique about Winrose.
Okay.
And that we give you the tools so that you can go ahead and monitor your progress of what we have done in a very effective way. Because remember, at the bottom, I'm I'm the kind of person from academia. I'm the kind of person like my parents to teach others. So that's what I created the book. I wrote the book because I never thought, I'm going to become famous or anything like that. Those who know me know that, I like to provide, I'm a thinker and I like to provide ideas, strategies, and So that's what I learned a lot about the problems of people because they were coming and asking me questions. So that, and I think that's important for me. It's not just my job, it's something that I wanted to do and I wanted to have the freedom of sharing my expertise and I'm fine with that.
Okay, super. Now, I'm going to start wrapping it up here. This is the Latino Business Report, and we've been talking about business. But is there anything you do or anything that would be helpful specifically to Latino-owned businesses out there?
Yes, I do a variety of things nowadays. So right now, I volunteer and a mentor for young Latinos who want to start their business, or they already have something in place, but they need to have some structure. So I help them with that.
Okay, how about us old Latinos who might want to start a new business?
Oh, of course, the same thing.
Okay.
So for the all Latinos, it's different. For the all Latinos, it's basically about if you still have the passion for what you're doing.
Ah, okay.
Because that's very important. It's the passion and then we go from there. And of course, I'm very involved in Conectado. That is a platform, Web3, founded by Guillermo Diaz. And it is basically to provide education it's informal education for Latinos. And to me, this is the future. We need to provide the tools and resources to our community so that we can embrace the digital era.
Okay. So do you see a lot of potential in the Latino business community?
I do. I think this is our time. I really believe that this is our time, and we better take advantage of this opportunity. I came to the United States in the 80s, and I remember that it was, where I was, there were very few Latinos role models, but, so I had to create my own opportunities. I have to, just do a lot of things on my own and rely on my resources, but it was a lot about based on me creating my opportunities. So I believe today all the Latinos are being open to help other Latinos and also their opportunities at the different levels in the federal government, small business, large companies. So I encourage everybody to go and look. And it all starts by, hey, buy my book. So
well, okay, there you go. It doesn't. You don't make a sale unless you ask. So let's talk about that. Where can people find your book? Is it just digital, or is it also in hardback or paperback?
Yes, we have it a hardcover and paperback and electronic, and it is it is in Amazon, and also you can go to my website, madeleinewallace.com, and from there you can click to go to Amazon.
Okay, and what's the book retail for?
So for the electronic is $9.99. For the hardcover is I want to thank all my friends that Latinos that they actually say, hey, Madeleine, we're going to support you. We're going to go ahead and buy the hardcover. So you see, we are all helping each other nowadays. So I think it's wonderful. And then we have the hardcover that is for $29. I'm checking now, sorry. The $29.99, the hardcover, and the paperback, $25.99.
Okay. So we got the $9, the $29. Okay, that's great. You got a good version in there. Everybody likes. I like books. Online books are fine, but I prefer a book that I can stick under my arm, read on a train, read on an airplane. So definitely, everybody's different. So you do have the variety. And congratulations again for bestseller in four different categories, correct? With Amazon?
Yes, thank you.
That's good. Madeleine, well, I've been very familiar with me. I apologize for that. Dr. Wallace, thank you very much.
No problem.
Thank you very much for joining us today. Is there anything you'd like to leave the audience with before we go?
I think that after you listen to this podcast, you need to identify and you need to go ahead and write down what will you do different about your business just by listening this podcast? What would you do differently? It could be from going to, I don't know, going to the bookstore, go to Google, find out about dieta transformation, or how to set up processes, or check if you have processes in place, if they're written down. So see, what would you do different just by listening to the podcast? And I think it's the beginning of a bright future, and you have to take this step.
You have to take action. You have to move forward doing something. Good point. And I guess one of those steps, you said that you need to do something. You can also go back and listen to other key episodes of the Latino Business Report to find out more information from other business experts such as you of what you're going to do to improve your business. So, Madeleine, thank you so very much for joining us. I'm excited to finish your book, especially that chapter about podcasts. I'm sure I can learn something. It's a learning process. No matter how long you've been doing it, how old you are, there's always the opportunity to learn.
Thank you very much for having me here.
You're welcome. You've been listening to the Latino Business Report. I'm your host, J.R. Gonzalez. You can find our complete library of work at latinobusinessreport.com. We also come by the same name. You can find us on YouTube. If you like what you hear, give us a like, give us a star, do whatever you need to do. And also on our website, latinobusinessreport.com, you can go to it, and there's a way to communicate with me directly. I'm very interested in what you have to say. Feedback, and if you have any ideas for good podcasts in the future, just let us know. All right, guys. Till next time.